Welcome, 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 everybody. So, before we begin, let's prepare your ears to listen and your heart to receive as you take in the words that look to change lives, renew hearts, and open minds. Welcome to the Door to Expansion, where I am your host, Anthony Hubbard, the founder and owner of Speak to My Heart Life Coaching. If anybody don't know, a life coach is a person who partners with clients and asks thought-provoking questions to create a process that will inspire them to maximize their personal and professional potential. So I'm gonna let my co-host introduce herself, Miss Stephanie Hollins Passmore.
Hey there. Hello to our audience. Anthony, our guest, Stephanie Hollins Passmore, marriage and family therapist. Relationships are right up my alley. As I work with individuals, couples, and the family system, I facilitate courageous conversations to help individuals to reconnect in their relationships. Our relationship dynamics are which um, mold us and gives us context to how we relate to the world. So I'm glad that we're using this platform to discuss the impact and influence of different relationship dynamics.
All right. If everybody who didn't tune in last week, me and Stephanie, we started this series on relationships, and we touched on we touched on different types of relationships. But this week we're gonna dive in a little something farther by discussing how sexual assault and harassment affects relationships. And I'm quite sure a lot of people probably don't even think about it because if it never happened to you or know somebody that it happened to, it's like one of them things that's kind of the farthest thing away from your mind. But there are people that are in this situation. So today we have two guests that have volunteered to speak on this subject. We're gonna welcome Nina and Tara to the Door Expansion webcast. We're glad to have y'all here. So I just want to let everybody know this is a very important topic. And before I let them speak or whatever, I just want everybody to know that we won't be discussing what happened to their case. I'll let them dive into however they want to dive into that. But I and the reason I mention that, I just don't want people to ask different questions about it because we here on the relationship portion of it. And then if anybody else have went through the same similar situation or something like that, and you want to provide any information, please feel free to use the comment section on here. And even if you have any questions or something. So with that being said, Nina, Tara, hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So we can jump right into this. If y'all want to say something, y'all can say something, or if you want to just jump right in, we can just jump right in. It's up to you.
Jump right in.
All right, let's do it then. So I guess to actually start this off, whenever so do you remember how old you were when you first were assaulted, and then looking at that, how has it affected your relationships?
Do you want me to take this one? I'll take it. So the first time that I can remember as far back, had to be, I would say, younger than 2. I actually can remember being in Brooklyn, New York, and having diapers on, and it was actually another young boy, maybe 10 or 12, that had been trying to touch me inappropriately. He was putting his hand down the back of my diaper. And then I had incidents after that where I was maybe like 5 or 6 with another family member that was a cousin. And I actually didn't remember that until I want to say it was around 1997, 98. And the incidents happened back in like the early 80s. So I guess I had kind of blocked it out. So of course, I didn't know until recently, going to get help and therapy, that with other incidences that happened later in my life or throughout my career in the Navy, that there was connections with those early onsets and how I perceive love and relationships and people. And then the bigger part of that is like trust. And it's not just trusting other people, but trusting yourself to make decisions on relationships to get into, whether it's a friend, family, whatever, because the violations had happened in all aspects of that. One had been a friend, one had been family, one was work or co-workers. So it made it very difficult. And then of course, even one was with my, 4 or 5 incidents with my ex-husband. And a lot of people don't realize, like, yes, you can be assaulted by your spouse. No is no, and it is what it is. But I guess the biggest part I took away from therapy and things like that was boundary setting. If you're not taught that, then you don't know what that means, what those lines are, or how to enforce them, or if somebody's violating those for you. So I think it starts with education and educating our youth and others that just don't know that boundary setting is really important, and recognizing that regardless of the relationship, those things can happen, and it is a violation if that's not acceptable to you.
So whenever you start going into your relationships, is that one of the things that you bring up?
I used to be very open to tell certain things to people, especially when you 18 years old, get married, and you think like, oh, let me just tell this person like this stuff. But then I've been married 3 times. I'm on my 3rd marriage, so that kind of can tell you a little bit about like not getting into the right relationships and not trusting yourself to know or what to look for or any of those things. So it definitely is, for me, a big deal. My circle is very small. I keep my circle small. I keep to myself because of those trust issues that I have. But I have definitely learned a lot from my experiences, and I've shared those I haven't told my kids about things that have happened, but I've explained to them about boundaries, and that if I hear where they feel like something's not right, they need to like say something or do something, and not just for themselves, but if they see it happening to somebody else.
And for myself, with my relationships, I was open and honest with my husband about what happened. I'm open and honest with my daughters. So my history, just brief, I was raped within my 1st year in the Navy. I did not report that one. And I was assaulted when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. I reported that one because my supervisor walked in and grabbed him off me. So that went up, and that was reported to the police, and that went up, through the judicial system. And then my last one was most recent, about almost 2 years ago, and I did that one as well. And I'm completely honest with my daughters. I have 3 girls, so my trust with people is limited. There's been people that I've been friends with maybe 7 years, and I haven't spoken to. Any little thing, I'll cut someone off. I find myself finding a reason to cut someone off, if that makes sense. I question what people say, jokes, to see if it's undermining. I also question how genuine they are. If you're genuine, I question how genuine they are, because it's are you trying to be my friend for me to get to know me, or is there an ulterior motive behind it? Because my last 2 supervisors were the ones who assaulted me before, and when I was younger in the Navy, it was the supervisor as well. So it's, well, what are your true intentions behind it? So, and when it comes to my daughters, I question who they're around. I don't trust many people around them, because I worry if anything will happen to them. So.
Yeah, that's a good point that Nina brought up about her daughters, and then questioning who they have around. I find that with my daughter, I was very overprotective and really didn't. I was a young mom too, but I didn't allow her to experience things. I rode a subway train at 10 years old. I lived in New York, but I'm afraid to trust my kids across the street by themselves, and they're 13, 15, and 23 and 24. But and unfortunately, I think by sheltering my daughter, some things have happened in her life that were not exactly things that I would have wanted. But I understand everybody has to go on their own path. But I sometimes I take that, and that was a lot of guilt that I had to deal with things that had occurred with her, and her having to deal with those things, because I know that I probably could have did some things differently. And since obviously since learning that, I did speak with her, and she's doing much better.
And
Just
seemed out
in-
go ahead.
No, I was just going to throw a statistic in there about domestic violence, sexual assault. It says current statistics show that 1 in 4 women will be abused by their partner, an acquaintance, someone close to the family at some point. And in fact, women are more likely to be assaulted by their partner or acquaintance than an assailant, So yeah, it's those who are very close to you, those who have the ability to have those intentions of mentoring. You see those perpetrators and people that are there to encourage. Like it's a grooming process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's hard to gauge that type of manipulation until it is too late, until you have been assaulted. So it's just not. It's not necessarily the assault. It's the behavior up until the assault that's even more traumatic as well, taking you through that process up to the assault.
And Ms. Ramirez, she had pointed that out about, you was talking about the family dynamic and the people who's doing it. So, she mentioned that her dad's friend, and then she also mentioned that she never told her daughter or her sons about that. So, I mean, personally, to speak to your kids about this and have that open conversation, that's courageous right there. I mean, yes, bring it on the platform, but then also just having that in-house conversation. I mean, that right there is volumes right there, because we don't want that to happen to our kids. It's like, I just want this to end right now. And to bring it to the kids, that takes a lot right there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to. No, I mean, I have to put my hats off to Nina. I mean, I had cases previously where I did say something, but mine were more of the harassment type. I've never reported sexual assaults when I was in the military. And it was because of the first case that I did report. I actually got a letter of reprimand, even though there was witnesses and everything. So it really did deter me from wanting to report things that had happened until I got older. But I like, my hat's off to Nina. I mean, she really advocated for herself and was just like, I'm not letting this happen again. I'm just, and that's, I mean, it's not like it was a easy person to go after. I mean, if you're talking about a regular company, you're talking about an employee and like, the seat, kind of like a CFO type person, like, he was a part of this triad. And I mean, it couldn't have been a more difficult situation. So I really do commend her for her bravery and stuff like that. And I think that women need to help each other out. And, regardless of what your circumstances are, whether you're best friends with that person, you don't know them at all. If somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, this happened to me, do you know anything? I think that we really, and I mean, men, women, whatever, we all need support. But, it was just, I think for both of us, it was very a therapeutic, process to go through. It was challenging, and it was nice to be able to be there for somebody and help somebody out do that.
I'm really, you get taken back by this, because it's one of them things that you don't even think about. And dealing with relationships in the first place is a hard thing. Mm-hmm. But then to have something in the back of your mind to sit and think about, that's the, I can't imagine it, because I've never been in the situation. But just to sit and think about, there's another roadblock that I'm gonna have to put another shield up in front of me before I can let this person in to get anywhere near to me. So with that being said, I know Terry, you said that you've been married 3 times, and so do you think that this is because of that?
I do. I believe that my environment, my upbringing, the circumstances, I mean, I think all those things played into it. My first husband was very abusive, um, physically. He actually got kicked out of the military, not just for, anything that happened with he and I, but things that had happened when he was stationed on a ship. They had to fly him back from overseas because he became irate and basically bludgeoned somebody so badly. So, but I know that there was something that made me attracted to that probably had to do with the relationships, whether it's the family dynamic, the environment, whatever that I was in. And I didn't, of course you're 18, 19 years old, you're not, you don't see those things. But the thing that, and it also makes it harder for you is that, when things like that, like she said, like you're very weary of people and then you just cut them off. Like that's me. Like I'm a runner. Like I don't, I will sit there and fight for a little while and try to like fight for the relationship. But if it's like, one of those lines that you just don't cross, because my parents never, wasn't raised in a home that I perceived as, a DV type, domestic violence type home. My parents argued like other people did, but I'd never seen my dad put his hands on my mom before or anything like that. So I knew right away, like, no, this is not gonna work for me. But if you look back at my husband's history, both his parents were domestic. They were married at 16. They fought all the time physically. She stayed with him for God knows 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? And then my second husband, we were dated for like 2 years and I didn't find out things about him till, almost when I was going through my divorce, that he was a police officer. He had been in the Navy and got out. And when we met, and he is now a registered sex offender. He's a pedophile. And I don't understand. But he had things in his past that he didn't share until, the case that he was going through was going on. And, he had been, sexually molested and things like that. So yeah, it's like one of those, I don't know, Van Gogh paintings, you're up real close and it kind of looks messy and you step away and you're like, oh, like, or it looks pretty up front, I'm sorry. And then you step away and you're just kind of like, yeah, that's not as pretty as I thought it was.
So, and Nina, if you want to follow up with it as well, as far as relationships go, and now,
Well, for relationships, I've been married to my husband for about 16, 17 years. But it has been difficult. I blamed him for majority of those years. What happened to me? He was in the Navy. We both decided that he separated, and we had our daughter. And I blamed him for years for what happened to me because I felt like he should have stayed in. I shouldn't have, but this was after everything happened. So for years, I blamed him. I blamed him up until maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And not knowing how I was reacting in our marriage, yelling, arguing. Our marriage took a turn for the worse, I would say, because I didn't get the help at the time. And with the relationship with my kids, I'm a huge holiday person. And when I reported the last case, I didn't decorate. I was secluded in the room in the bed. We didn't really celebrate Thanksgiving, Christmas. It affected my children in my marriage a lot.
yeah, I can see it, and I think especially for the men on here, a lot of times we don't even think about on their end, for the feelings that they might have, and I would even go to say, because as a man, you're supposed to protect, and the fact that you can't protect that person, that's one aspect of it, and then two is how to deal how to deal with your spouse when something like this happens. Because like you said, you push everybody away from you, and even including that person. So I mean, just for your spouse to have to deal with that as well. So I mean, the why, and like I said, if you don't have never been in the situation, you would never even think about it. And it's just like, wow, this is crazy. You know, Let me share some comments with y'all. Miss Honeybee said, Nina, you are a true gem and you are the change. Uh, Mr. Henson, he mentioned, wanted to say hi, and then he wanted to know why it's so common in the military. Uh, for me to answer that question, it's common in the military, and it's really not common in the military. You also have to look at the military as a microcosm of society.
Yep.
So everything that we have in the military is out in society. It's the same people that's joining. Only 1% of people can join the military over whatever. But even in that 1%, people are people.
Mhm.
So one of the things Tara mentioned that she didn't even report something. So that right there is one of the things right there, because when she did report, what happened? It was a backlash against her. So a lot of people just say, I don't even want to report it, which is even worse, because now you have the person that's out there doing it, they're gonna offend again, possibly. So, and I'll let y'all speak on it, on the reason why do y'all think it's so common in the military?
So for myself, Stephanie mentioned grooming, and that was the big thing that I see now is they groom you for it. The perpetrators, whether it be male or female, because there's women out there that do it as well. And I think for myself, being in the military, you're supposed to have this close brotherhood, sisterhood, and you tend to open up about things in your past. You open up about your history. You open up about everything. So this person is picking out their victim just by you verbalizing, just having you're thinking you're having regular conversation and you're trying to relate to someone, but then you have someone in the crowd who's picking you out because they know that you are damaged on the inside. And I believe that they pick you out because of that.
No, I agree. I think they
That we have.
see our vulnerability.
Mhm. It's the openness that we have with each other, and that's why I mentioned with my daughters was, I teach them now. Everyone doesn't need to know your business, because in my mind, you're opening that up, even though it's never your fault. It's not your fault. It's the perpetrator's fault. But I feel like to protect myself and to protect them, don't tell everyone your business so they can't use it against you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the dynamic, like you said, it's a 1% reflection, but the dynamic of the military and the way the military is, it makes it very easy for the power control relationship, and that grooming relationship, and then at some point there's a blur of compliance and boundaries, like knowing, like, okay, well, if I say no, I'm not going to stay late for work because I don't want to be around this person because I feel unsafe around this person. Well, now I'm not complying, and even though I feel like there's a violation of boundaries, and I don't appreciate the things they're saying. Even when you bring it to their attention, I mean, it can affect your promotions. It can affect. They have full control over your career, and like Nina was saying, like you have that mentoring. They know your stuff. Sometimes it's not even a matter of verbalizing. Like my divorce that I was going through was like 5 years. There was no way I could not tell somebody that I had a police officer husband that was a pedophile that I was divorcing, that took me 5 years to divorce because I was having to fly from one state to the other and leave work unexpectedly. So sometimes you just can't control the things that you have to, that you have to put out, because you have to tell your supervisor. And unfortunately, it's usually not a peer. It's usually somebody that's in a position of power that has the control to do whatever they essentially, want to do. And they're slick, they're very, very slick. And they may start off being relatable and telling you things that may have happened to them and all that. And that's a part of that, like Lena said, the grooming part. It's not necessarily an inappropriate conversation. It's just somebody being vulnerable with somebody else and that person trying to relate. It's just a normal relationship of, mentor and mentee. And then it turns into like, next thing you know, they got their hands on your shoulders. Next thing you know, they're calling you this, that, or the other, and out of your name. And it's just like, you're just like, hold up, how did this go from here to there? And people that you work with, just, they don't see it because they're very, very sly about how they do certain things.
Or people at work have seen it or witnessed it before.
Right.
Like in my case, it was, well, we're not surprised because we've always seen, this kind of behavior, or it was sketchy behavior. But my thing is, why didn't you do something about it? Why didn't you say something about it? We always preach for something. If you see something, say something. But it's like people are afraid to first have the hard conversation about it, about sexual assault and sexual harassment or sexual violence. People don't want to talk about it. It's kind of like racism. No one wants to talk about it until it affects you. And but you see it, but you don't do anything, and then you end up hurting someone else. And then when you go through the case and you come forward, it's you can feel like you don't have support from everyone. No one's calling you, no one's checking on you, but in your mind, you're just going through all these scenarios. So you have your certain group of friends or people that are your support system that keep you alive from drowning. And it's hard. It's very hard when you come forward. It's hard every day. Even though like my case is closed, retiring in a couple months, but I struggle every day. I struggle with my daughters. I visibly struggle, and the person just moves on. But you have to continue thinking about it, or reliving it, or sleeping, or not sleeping. So, and people don't think about that. They don't think about the victim and their long-term effect. They think about the perpetrator, and they can say, well, this person was removed from the Navy, or this person was kicked out here, or this person's in jail, or this person's serving time. But no one ever thinks about the victim in the long-term effect.
Yeah, the aftermath of how that affects the ongoing relationships, like within your shops and your next duty state. Like you have to carry that with you.
Or even in life, like my next chapter after retirement, how am I gonna start a new relationship with, working with civilians in a free environment? In the military, I kind of sort of had a protection. At least I felt that way. So now how am I going to move into that new relationship after the fact? So that's a struggle that I worry about, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I Nina knows I haven't gone to work. I stay, I stay home because I have problems socializing, because I just, it doesn't, for me, I mean, therapy was great and it helped me in my bubble. But of course, right after COVID happened, or during, I should say, COVID happened. So that isolated people from each other anyway. But I had already gotten over like the depression and the grieving stage and had gone through all that. But for me, COVID, I know for some people it's not great. For me, it was good because I preferred the isolation, because my isolation wasn't in a bad way. It was more for me therapeutic, and it made me feel safe. I didn't feel like I had to have somebody around because I was always at home. But even to this day, if I have to go to the military base here, I don't go alone. If I have to take one of my 13-year-olds, I just I get very anxious driving towards the base.
And I'll share some of the comments that came in while you're speaking. See, Master Chief Tool, he said it may cost you a career, but by not reporting it could cost your life. So report it. Miss Honeybee, she put on there, trust me, I'm very well aware she's retired. Miss Lynn put, brave women like you two have paved the way. Nina, you are absolutely amazing and strong. Thank you for being the voice for thousands of women in the military. Uh, and then Ms. Torres said, thank you, Nina and Tara, for sharing and stepping up to create a change that is desperately needed. And then whenever you all was talking, Ms. Honeybee also mentioned wanting to drop your guard, which is kind of hard to do. And then she also put down there, it's such a pattern and it's sad and sickening because of the pattern whenever we don't report the stuff. But at the same time, like y'all have mentioned, the reasons why you don't want to report it, and I understand what Master Chief was saying that, if you don't report it, then it will become a sad, sickening pattern. So, it's a toss up, how much do you want somebody else to be involved in your life more than anything? Because I'm quite sure once you reported it, and of course being on the military, you can have it private or you can have it open. And either way you're going to have people that's still going to invade in your privacy and know a whole bunch of things about you more than anything.
And it's not just that, like your family life. If you already have a marriage or whatever relationship with somebody that is rocky or whatever, you may not report because you're afraid to be like, well, what did you do? How did you cause it? They automatically, that happened.
You for everything.
Right. With my ex-husband, he was just always like, oh, what do you do? What is this? And like, you don't know all these guys. That's all they want. I was in the Navy. I know. And it's just like, I can't go to work every day wondering like who wants to do something to me or with me or whatever. Like, I'm just trying to go to work, and you have to deal with, if your relationship already has a rocky foundation, it's already just, you're already losing, and then to go and try to report this, and then, they're going to want to talk to your spouse, and it just rocks your core. It really is like a drop in the pond that just causes a ripple effect for forever.
Tara, Nina, question for the two of you. Was there ever a time that you found yourself upset with yourself?
Oh yeah.
Was there some self-sabotaging, some negative self-talk going on through the process?
I blame myself a lot. I ask myself if I provoked the situation, what could I have done? What could I have done different? How could I have avoided it? I shouldn't have trusted the person so much, maybe. And I kept going, through like conversations. Is there something that I said maybe that was inappropriate? Is there something that I did? I doubt if I had good. I still doubt sometimes if I have good judgment. If I trust my own instincts. So I blame myself a lot, and I still have those conversations with myself. Like, what did I do? What did I say? How can I prevent it? And I mean, you say it's not your fault, but it's still conversation that I have with myself.
Yeah, and I agree with what she said. Like everything that I felt guilt, and because I didn't know why this, I was the common denominator to these things that continue to happen, and I didn't know what I was doing or not doing. And at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I really do believe it. For me personally, it came down to knowing what boundaries are and how to set them. And, since I've retired, it makes it much easier because there's people that I don't have to associate with because of a job or whatever. And I don't really want to have to be put in that situation. But I've had friendships that I've had to just be like, I can't talk to you anymore. And most people that know me, like I would never do that. I would just, I'll go silent, but I would never like state why. And I just, you just have to know yourself, know what boundaries are and where you fit into that, and literally practice doing them every single day, regardless of what the relationship, is, whether it's with the person at the Kroger that didn't bring your stuff up right, or if it's, somebody you have a really strong personal relationship with.
Yeah, I ask that question of you too, is because this is the aftermath that you have to live with. Just after you report, it's like people would think you would have some type of release or relief. But these are the things that you have to continue to process. Like these intrusive thoughts over and over, like, what did I do? What could I have done differently? Who's at fault? It's these constant questions that you ask yourself daily, those conversations you have with yourself.
Yeah, and I think it's the most important key would be is somebody to really reach out and get help. No matter how much you think that it wasn't impactful or anything like that, it will come out and at some point in your life. I mean, I had bad dreams. I was kicking, punching. I was never suicidal, but I did want to cause harm to the people that had done these things to me. And the last person was going to get the larger part of that. And I'm never an angry person. So I did not like what I was seeing. And I literally told my job, I'm going to get help and I'm not coming back. And I didn't. I did not come back.
And see, I was the opposite. I wouldn't say suicidal. I did have suicidal ideation. And I can remember just one instant was like in the middle of COVID. I was in my office and I was just sitting there, just crying uncontrollably, just crying. And I remember my husband walking in and he was like, just don't want to live anymore. And he felt so lost, like he didn't know what to do. And he ended up getting me dressed, leaving out, and I love smoking cigars, so we end up going to the cigar lounge in the middle of the pandemic, just so I can get out and breathe. But at that point, I just realized that he doesn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do. And here I was blaming him for what happened to me when he didn't even know what to do, and he did the best he could with what I guess he had. And but yeah, for myself, it was I didn't want to live.
One of the comments that came in and say, ladies, it took tremendous strength to report and come forward. I'm proud to say I work with you both. Sharing your story will give countless others the strength to do the same. And one other comment that just came in, Mr. Henson said, you two women are so strong, whether you know it or not. I literally hear peace in your voices under the pain that's speaking now. I know this sounds weird, but this will not live in your life forever on this level of pain.
Yeah. I tell myself sometimes, I said, one day the chaos in my mind will end. It will go away. It will fully go away. One day.
Mm-hmm.
So, we discussed this right here. So what are some of them, I guess, how do you act out? I know, Terry, you mentioned that, you're not a violent person, but seeing that person, it'll make you go out there. But was there any other thing? And I'm not saying this, you in particular, and I mean, Stephanie, you've been a trauma person, you can talk to this too. But I mean, what are some of the other things people would have to go through?
I mean, some of the things that I went through, I became very paranoid, had cameras put all around the house, put locks on any gates to come onto the property, put signs for no trespassing. I mean, my husband was really, and the kids were starting to get, because of my heightened sensitivity to just noise and everything. Like we have a loft.
Hypervigilance.
Hypervigilant, there's a word, yeah. And so my bedroom is right below the loft. And so when the kids would come in here at night, I would jump. I mean, I definitely suffer from PTSD. I'm diagnosed with it. But like I had to go to EMDR to get that lessons, which I recommend people to do. It worked for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but I mean, that's why getting help is really, really important, because your family will suffer. Everything will fall apart at some point. It will catch up. You know, I was very good at compartmentalizing for 20 something years. But yeah, it definitely just everything. And then there's, you know, the relationships, whether, you know, they call it a grieving process. It's not just for death. Like, you really do have to grieve loss, you know. And you know, the Navy, I left, I could have done another 6 months, and I just couldn't do it. I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I had 6 more months to retire. And I was like, for the sake of other people and for me, it's best that I just, you know, cut that, you know, off. But it's loss. And I think that I've completed my cycle of grievance. But I think I also still do compartmentalize, because I did do it for so long. And it is a top behavior because my mother does it too. So I try to address the way I feel and communicate with people that I have those issues with. But I do still find myself being a little numb to a lot of the stuff that has occurred, because I realize, you know, at this point, it is what it is, you know, and whatever, you know, I'm religious, and, you know, at the end of the day, God's gonna make his judgment and do what he needs to do, and knows what's in my heart and in those people's hearts. And, you know, hopefully it all comes out the way it's supposed to. And you just have to, like, leave it there, because if not, it really will make you crazy.
And for myself, it was anger, patience, anxiety, panic attacks, one point hypersexuality. And, you know, a lot of people like don't really talk about that, but you know, after sexual trauma, some women become hypersexual because they want to have the control. They feel like they need the control. Because if I do it first, then I won't have to say no, or I won't be forced to say, you know. So it's a lot of emotions, a lot of negative responses. Drinking, I drank a lot. To deal with, or to suppress, corrupt feelings. Sarcasm. People who know me know that I joke a lot, but it's sarcasm because I hurt. It's my mask to mask the pain.
And I've dealt with sexual assault, sexual abuse late in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talked about being hypersexual. You know, for me, it's a complete shutdown. I feel like I could never be intimate with someone ever again, you know. And so just the discussion of sex and intimacy is a struggle, because after that happens, you do feel very damaged, you know. And the hypersexuality comes, the flirtation, the body language, you know, how you relate to people, both men and women. For me, it's like, it's inappropriateness, it's anger, it's acting out, you know, because it's part of self-sabotaging behavior. It's like, I'm already damaged, so either I completely shut down or I just continue to give of myself. And I'm going to use a phrase that it may sound inappropriate, but it's kind of like letting someone piss in you and shit on you. That's how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you go back and forth with, like, you know, what role did I play in this? You know, how could you get upset with yourself? How can I allow that to happen? How did I put myself in these vulnerable situations? So it's an array of emotion. You go from one end of the spectrum to the next, and it's a pendulum. You just, and it feels out of control. And it's our inability to really regulate ourselves because we don't understand what healthy is or what normalcy is. And we constantly question that in every decision we make daily, with the small things and the big things in life. So, yeah.
So that brings me to my next question for all of y'all. So do you think that the term healthy relationship, is there such a thing?
Nina, you want to go first?
I do think that there is. I think that you need to have a strong support system. Without your support system, I don't think it'll ever happen. But I think if you have a strong support system, you need to take things slow, talk about things. And I mentioned earlier about having all the chaos in your mind or in my mind. Once you have that chaos in your mind simmer down, I do believe that there's hope for a healthy relationship. But you have to do the work. There's a lot of work that has to be done. But your support system is number one. Your support system is number one in order to help with that.
Yeah, I think people look at the word healthy relationship or just the word healthy in general, and they think it has to be, white picket fences and dogs, and and that's not it at all. At least not for me. I think that communication is the biggest thing. And then also, even before that and getting into a relationship, or if you're already in a relationship, is being able to talk to your partner, or whatever it is, your family, whoever it is that you share your life with, and explain to them if you have to take a step back and fix whatever, if something's broken, if you feel like your judgment's clouded, whatever that is, and go get the help. So I think with help and communication, I think those are the two biggest things for me that really help, because me and my husband really, I just don't know how he did it. I really don't. I don't know how. We have a very big family, and I don't know how he did everything. Because like Nina said, like, I was checked out in the room with the curtains drawn, not talking to anybody. Like, it was just a moment, like a mountain of things that all occurred, like a perfect storm. And I was just not prepared. I was already retiring when everything just kind of like, and it wasn't just, the stuff with the Navy, it was the ex-husband, and that was just a lot. I think for anybody to deal with any one thing would have been a lot. And so to have all these three different things going on at the same time was just, it was just a lot.
Man. So a couple comments came in. Mr. Sparrow said, I know both of these ladies and have worked with them. They always have smiles on their faces, and both are wonderful souls. As I sit here and listen to this, it really breaks my heart to hear you both went through this. Mr. Henson, he came and he said he promised that chaos would leave. It's better. It gets better. You will not be able to do it alone. It will turn to a spiritual body that only God will and can show you how to correctly place this in the area to your life, to where it does not live in your forefront. And then he also put down, God loves you.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I got emotional because Darnell, Sparrow, he's one of our junior sailors, and for us, it's a lot to expose yourself to your junior people. So you forget you're retired, but they're still they're still watching.
True.
But to know that they never saw that side of us and that we were strong, and that means a lot because when that stuff's happening, you don't feel strong.
Yeah, I know. Like how y'all was saying, you feel like you out on an island by yourself,
Yeah.
and it's just like, and I guess in a way, you on an island by yourself, and sometimes you want to put yourself on an island just to, like Tara said, she'd rather be in the room locked up by herself. But then in Nina's case, she was just like, the phone call stopped, and it's like, okay, then so of course then you're gonna think, well, maybe it was something I did because nobody want to talk to me. But both y'all mentioned, it's not that I don't think it's that. It's what do you say? How do I comfort this person in
Right.
a situation you've never been in? And so that's one of the biggest issues that I would see, you know, because if I knew you then, and I'd be like, I really want to call to find out how she's doing, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm being nosy or intruding or something like that. So it's that like a fine line type thing as well.
Right. And it's funny how you mentioned that because I just spoke with a former coworker on LinkedIn a couple days ago, and he was like, I wanted to reach out to you, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to be nosy, but just know that I prayed for you. And he was like, I'm just proud that you came forward, and I'm proud everything's going good, and your next chapter is going to be good. But I've heard that from people if they don't know what to say, be nosy. And I've been an open book. People handle it different, but I've been an open book about what happened to me because I don't want it to happen to anyone else. Like this happened to me my first year in the Navy, and I became, I guess, labeled as a problem person, and it wasn't because I didn't care or I was a problem, but something happened to me, and I didn't know what to say. So when I did go to therapy, and it was my first ship. I remember going to therapy. I was 19 years old, just left New Jersey, and I just wanted him to just pull it out of me. But instead of him pulling it out of me, he diagnosed me with adjustment disorder. And that's not what happened. I was raped. I needed to let somebody know. I needed a grown-up to help me. That's how I felt. And unfortunately, we did it, and I acted out a lot. I didn't care. I was ready to go. I'm surprised it took 21 years, honestly, but it worked itself out. But I mean, nothing.
So Miss Honeybee said call, and she said call, and if they want to chat, they will. If not, send a text just saying I'm thinking of you and praying for you. So, well, ladies,
Is
it's
it
about that time.
Really?
Yep, it's about that time.
We
But
made
I
it.
do want to offer y'all your own time. If you want to say something to the viewers and the listeners out there, if you can give them any word, I mean, what would it be?
So, for those who are victims and survivors, if you're a victim and you feel like you're not ready to come out yet, just know there's a lot of us who have been through similar situations, and yes, it's hard, but you can't fully heal if you still have it in you and you're still dealing with the trauma yourself. You have to get help. I went through trauma therapy, EMDR. I'm still in counseling for it, and it's a constant. It's going to probably be years of therapy for me. But my advice to those who haven't been a victim, just help prevent sexual violence, assault, harassment. Become comfortable with talking about it with your children. Even though you were never a victim, you still want to talk to your children about boundaries, about your children and teens, about boundaries, about hugging and kissing, and just making it comfortable for them to speak to you if anything happened to them, and talk about what's inappropriate. You have to have conversations with your kids about what's inappropriate because you never want them to be a victim. And the whole thing. If you see something, say something. If you see something, say something. We always say it, but think about long-term effects on someone instead of protecting someone's career or, if they're incarcerated or not. You have to think about the victim always.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Nina said is, I think for me, my message is going to be, if something hasn't happened, be an advocate, be a supporter, make sure that you are an open ear. Do not re-victimize the person if they come and say something to you, or you go to question them. Just be there for them and let them tell their story, how their story went, because their perception of what happened and what you may have seen is two totally different things, and there is help out there where, whether in the military, a cop, whatever, you can go and get help, and they're not, you understand that there is a crime, but they can't report it, if you're just saying, hey, this happened to me, and you just want to talk about your feelings and how it went. It doesn't have to be a crime thing. It can just be self-healing type situation if you go and get help through therapy. But there's many resources out there with different cities and things like that. I know here in Memphis, you can go to Kindred, I think it's called the Kindred Place now, and they help people that have been in domestic violence and sexual assault and stuff like that. And it's completely free, and they do family therapy. And for those who have been through stuff, I mean, it really behooves you to get the help. And nobody's forcing you to have to make a report until you're ready, but getting help, even though you may feel like you're not in a place, because sometimes people need to feel like they're in the place to get help, to receive the help that they want, even if it's just to get that temperature check, to know that you're not in a situation where you want to hurt yourself or somebody else. And maybe the person that you connect with, the counselor, or whoever it is that you speak to, pastors, all that sort of stuff, will guide you. And if not now, maybe sometime in the future, you realize that you do see the signs of what's going on, which actually brought me to finances. I spent a lot of money when things like that happen. I know you guys talked about hypersexuality. I spent lots of money on things that were just completely unnecessary to get that high of just trying to feel better. So just just advocate for yourself, advocate for your families, and self-care.
And I think my last thing, because I know we have like a minute left, is just, I want, victims to know that the victims are never at fault. The perpetrator is.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Stephanie?
Well, I want to say you're not a victim for sharing your story. You are a survivor setting the world on fire with your truth, and you never know who needs your light, your warmth, and raging courage. So I just want to thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories. Thank you for sharing your resiliency and your personal work that you've done to be healed and become whole. For the audience today, if you've experienced sexual trauma, you'd like to process that trauma, you can connect with the National Sexual Assault Hotline. That is 1-800-656-HOPE. That's free, confidential, and I believe those are not volunteers. Those are actual trained professionals. And if you would like to speak with a therapist, you can connect with a therapist. There's different directories. You can find therapists on Psychology Today, Therapy Tribe, Therapists for Black Girls, just to name a few. And if you're in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, you can reach out to me at Stephanie@thenarrativeshift.com. That's my email, or you can visit my website at www.thenarrativeshift.com. I can provide you with a referral, additional resources, or if you'd like a therapy session. That's what I will end out with.
That's a lot of information. But ladies, I have truly enjoyed having you on the show. And before I close out, I want to, we did have a few more comments come in right at the end. So I do want to share those. One said, "I'm so proud of you ladies and admire you for your courage." Miss Honeybee says, "So appreciate you all, hugs and prayers as you all continue your healing journey." And Mr. Henson and also Miss Honeybee also both said, "Great show." So,
Well, thank you guys for having us. This has been really great.
Thank you for
like I said,
sharing.
yeah, this right here, if it wasn't eye opening for nobody else, it was eye opening for me. And that's why I really like doing this webcast, because sometimes I'm just a little curious. And if I'm curious, I'm quite sure there's a lot of other people that's curious about certain things as well. So that's one of the whole reasons behind the platform. It's just to get the information out there to people, because like I said, if you've never been in this situation, how can you experience anything? But then to know and understand that there are other people who've been through the same situation, and look at you, you're survivors. Like Stephanie said, there's no victim, it's a survivor. So I mean, yet again, thank y'all for coming on here. And then for the audience, hey, if you have any topics or anything that you wanna have discussed, just please email me at speak to my heart lifecoach@gmail.com, and I will start looking for guests to come on the show. Like I said, that's what the platform is about. I just want to provide information to people, and just illuminate everything that's going out there. So we're a little bit over time, but with that being said, I will leave you all with this. If you never heal from what hurt you, then you'll bleed on people who did not cut you. So again, I would like to thank these ladies for coming on the show and sharing their stories, and I pray that it inspired others to seek the assistance they might need to have a more positive and trusting relationship. So this has been another edition to the Door to Expansion webcast, and we out of here.
Thank you.